Hello and welcome to Secrets Mystery Manor. I'm your host, Psychic Zelda Kelly. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome everyone. I hope you're well tonight and I hope you've got some snacks. We're going to be talking about a good one. I'm your host, Zelda Kelly of Secrets Mystery Manor. And tonight we are talking about New York. And it's a good one. Pardon me, got a few allergies. It's a good one. So say hello to me in the comments. Let me know where you are viewing from. I'd love to hear from you. Hello, everyone. Hello, hello. Now, I do want to tell you there's some scary parts to this. Viewer discretion is advised. So if you get bothered by scary details or a little bumps that go into the night, well, forewarned is forearmed. Okay, so now, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I am so happy to be with you here tonight. Now, I do want to tell you that Anne has stepped away for a little while. She needed a much needed break to recharge her batteries. So we wish her well upon her way. We thank her and we wish her well. And if she's watching this, well, hello. Okay, so now let's get started. Okay, we're talking about Amityville. So Amityville, the Amityville Horror House is what we're going to be talking about tonight. Now, why are we going to be talking about this? Well, most of you may know that I am a psychic medium. Number one, you do know that. Secondly, I am a paranormal researcher. That is my first love. I have been going out for years to, well, investigate different houses, commercial properties, cemeteries, you name it. And I've probably been there. But tonight, this is a story that I want to share. And it's one of the ones that bothered me probably most of all. And it is about the Amityville Horror House. Now, for those of you who maybe don't know about the Amityville Horror House, now I'm going to say I don't know how, because it's pretty famous. I know that you've seen the movies and I know that you have, well, you've heard about it and you've seen the home with those little cat eyes looking at you, right? Just so you know, those windows have been changed. They changed those windows out. I like the old ones. Sorry, I just like the old ones. So now I'm going to be talking about a time when I visited there. Now, I did not go in a paranormal capacity. I was actually living in Tennessee at the time, was dating a man whose family is from New York. We had planned on going up there. I had just finished my clinical parapsychology studies and needed a break, and that is for sure. Now, for those of you who want to know what clinical parapsychology is, that is the study of when someone, I'm going to say, commits a crime. Let's just say that. And they say, the devil made me do it. Well, sometimes I believe that's the truth. And in this case of the Amityville Horror House, I believe that may have been true. And from what I saw, and give me just a second. Sorry, my allergies have got the best of me. I'm going to take a really quick drink. One moment. So we decided to go on up to New York. Long Island is where this home is. And this man's family lived so close to Amityville, but it was on Long Island. So when we got up there, his mother, and of course they all knew what I did, and his cousin had a psychic shop, and we were all excited, and I was going to read cards in her shop, and we just really had a really good time and a big time planned. So the man that I was seeing at that time, it wasn't really that serious, okay? So when we went up there, his mother said, "I've got such a surprise for you, Zelda. The Amityville Horror House is for sale." And I said, "Oh my gosh, we've got to go look at it." Now, she was a retired real estate agent, and she said, "I'll do my best to get in." Coldwell Banker had it for sale. I believe that's who it was at that time. And she said, "We will do our best to get in." That's exactly what we did. We waited. So we got the call, and she announced, "This lady that my son is dating is this and this and this, and she does this sort of thing. I just don't understand it, but she wants to get into the house." Well, the warning bells started ringing, and that was not the thing to say. So what they needed was a proof of funds, and at that time, they had it listed for $850,000. We put our heads together, and we knew that this real estate agency was going to have to verify to let us in. And we also knew that one of the rules, we couldn't take a cell phone, we couldn't take a camera, we couldn't take any equipment with us. We could not take a group, and it was his family that wanted to go, his sister, mom, myself, and him. We wanted to go, and we wanted to see on the inside. That was pushing the limits. So it took us 3 days to come up with a proof of funds for that amount of money, but we did it. And I think they were thinking that, well, they're not going to be able to do that. That'll deter them, and they just will go away. Well, that didn't happen. We actually were able to go. Now, this home is located on Ocean Avenue. The address originally was 112 Ocean Avenue, and they changed it because there were so many thrill seekers, people, paranormal groups, just tourists driving by, looking, walking around the house. They changed it to 108. Now, quite frankly, I think you pretty much know what that house looks like. And when you pull up in that area, it's it's on the corner of Ocean Avenue and another street. And thank you so much, everyone, and welcome. And that's my cat in the background. So, so anyway, it's just really at the dead end street. You pull up, and it's right in front of you. Now, funny enough, they share a driveway with another home. Well, not funny enough, but the realtor parked on the street. And I just thought, that's so odd. There was plenty of room. It was in the daytime. It was I believe it was the last part of September, and getting into October. It was cool out, and it was in 2016. So we pull in the driveway. We wait for this person to come out. He sat in the car forever. And we thought, what is going on? Well, we wanted to walk around the house, and he wouldn't let us. He got out and he said, no, you can't walk around the house. Can't walk around the house. No. And I said, "Excuse me, sir, but we have a proof of funds. And if we're looking at a house, how are we supposed to be looking at a house if we can't walk around the house, or at least go down to the boathouse and to at least the waterfront, for crying out loud?" So he hawed around and everything else. And I'm going to say, it was eerie, very eerie. And this man's sister did not want to go in. So she said she would just wait in the car. And I said, "Do me a favor and take pictures of the house. They can't tell us we can't have a camera in our own vehicle." Pardon me, just because we can't take it into the house doesn't mean you can't take pictures on the outside. They can't tell us that. So now comes this next part, and this is the creepy part. This realtor opens the door, and the only way that I can describe it is in the summertime, when you're going from an air-conditioned building into the humid outdoors, the heat hits you like a wave. And that was exactly what it was like on the inside. This heat hit us. And it was just not only me. His mom turned around and said, is the furnace, is the heat on in here? And he said, no, the electric's not on in here. They did not have the electric on. And I said, why wouldn't you keep the electric on? It's getting cold. And he said, pardon me, I guess the owners didn't want to. Whatever, okay. So usually in a paranormal investigation, not usually, always, when I walk into a home, I'll put my right hand on the door sill. Pardon me. Bad stuff. Okay. So I put my hand on the door frame is what I'm talking about. If it's wooden. And that helps to ground me before I walk in. Now, I knew I wasn't going to be able to do anything, and especially with a realtor there. And with his mom and with him, I felt a little weird, okay? And I really wasn't going to do too much anyway. And let me back up for a minute. Before we went to this home, I apologize. I'm so sorry. Before we went to the home, we were like having their family meetings in the living room, talking about what happened, talking about this tragedy around this house, talking about all these things, which brings me to this point that I didn't make earlier. This was the site of a very bad tragedy in 1974. A young man of a family who was 23 years old, his name was Ronald Defoe Jr., eliminated his entire family in this home. There were some unanswered questions that I really wanted the answers to. And I think I may have gotten something, but there's no way to prove it. So the two elements that were never able to be explained by the authorities, and that is every one of the family members were on their stomachs when this tragedy occurred. And I'm going to try to say it without getting in trouble here. The thing that he used to eliminate his family was very loud, extremely. And the question was, why didn't the family members wake up? Why didn't somebody somewhere? How could that happen? The other point I want to tell you is that all of this occurred at approximately 3:15 in the morning. Now, he ran out and said, first of all, that it was a mob hit. Something like that happened, whatever the case may be. Ultimately, he was arrested, the young man who did this. Okay, so now, and this is Petey meowing coming into me. I hope you guys are always used to the kitties. There he is, Petey, my paranormal Petey. That's him if you see him in the reels. Okay, so now fast forwarding again, we had these meetings, the family meetings. And the family meetings, even though I wasn't part of the family, but the family was there because this was just the topic. And I mean, it was an excitement, and it was excitement for me, even though I wasn't going to be able to do my thing, just to be in that house. My plan was to just see every room, not really look, but see every room and then buzz off, because there were going to be too many people. That his sister was a non-believer. His mom, I don't know, she just liked to hear about this sort of thing. And him, I have no idea either. He could have, he never really talked about it. And it was me that talked about it. So the family was there, and I basically was saying, okay, now look, when we go in there, we're going to be respectful. We're not going to be, doing anything that we shouldn't be. They're going to be watching us, and we're not going to be, making a mockery out of everything. We're not going to be doing this. Now, his mom, I trusted. Him, not so much, because I didn't know, because sometimes he wanted to be a little show off. Okay. So now fast forward, we get out of the car, we go up to the front door. The realtor opens the front door of the Amityville house, and he's standing there and he's looking at us, and he is looking at me just thinking, is she going to get me in trouble? I know that that's what he was thinking. I had no intention. I would just really wanted to see it, because just finishing my clinical parapsychology courses, this was just really up my alley. This is exactly what I wanted to just be involved with. I just wanted to see it. He opens the door. So this wave of heat comes. We feel it, just like you're walking out from air conditioning into the humid air of Florida. The heat just hits you. And so I'm putting my hand on the frame of the door to ground myself. And the door frame was hot. And I had to pull my hand back. And I thought, oh boy, this is not a good sign. This is not good. Now, there were bits and pieces of furniture in this home, bits and kibbles. Now, I'm going to stop here because I want to tell you a little bit more about leading up to this. So the original family obviously was no longer there, and it sold a year later to a couple, George and Kathy Lutz, and that's where the Amityville Horror in 1979, that film came out, and the book, and all this other stuff and whatever. They only had it for 28 days. In fact, when they bought the home, it was still, for the most part, furnished. They got rid of the mattresses. The realtor said they got rid of the mattresses and maybe a couple of their pieces of furniture, but for the most part, everything was there. So this George Lutz thinks that this is a total bargain and buys the house, and they bought it for $80,000. Well, I pipe up and I say, well, I've got to tell you something. I really don't know what makes this house worth $850,000, because the homes around it are selling for like in the low sixes. So is it because it is semi-famous? Are you trying to deter people from just coming in? Thrill seekers? What are you trying to do? Well, he couldn't answer me. And I said, that's okay. We're here. We're just going to look. We walk in, and it is a foyer. And ahead of us is this beautiful staircase. I mean, it was gleaming, shining hardwood floors, beautiful. To the left was this room. It had like these little Frenchy doors that were just decorative, but very pretty, very nice. And then to the right was another room, but the door was closed. We walk in, and I'm standing in the foyer. And the first thing that happened was that I felt like someone took their hands on my shoulder, and both shoulders, and pushed down. Like the air was just so heavy, just like it was just pushing down on me. And I thought, oh boy, here we go. Now, I had said my prayers. I made sure that I was okay before I went in there. I made sure that I was anointed. I knew my normal routine. I made sure that everything was okay with me. I asked the other ones, no, it's okay. Okay, fine. We weren't there for an investigation anyway, just to see. I get into the foyer, and this person that we went there with, my guy, this person goes into the room to the left the one with the little Frenchy doors that was so pretty. And that was a beautiful room, had a fireplace, I just went to the doorway. And what does he do? There was a couple of chairs in there. What does he do? He goes in there and starts dancing around like he's possessed and crazy, and starts saying, woohoo, come out, spirits. Here she is. Here's the big bad Zelda. She's here. You can jump on her all you want. I brought her to you. Yeah. I was stunned. His mother stood there. Now, I'm going to tell you something. We are not in our teens, okay? This behavior is unacceptable. His mother looks at him and says, oh my God, what is wrong with you? Stop this. Because it scared her. Now, you can imagine this realtor is standing there. The next thing we know, we hear the front door close. He hightails it. It scared him. It scared him. So I'm standing there and I'm thinking, what do I do? What do I do? So the banister to the stairway was wooden. And I really don't like to ground myself on banisters because there's too much energy around. You don't know who's touching what. Most likely when you walk into a home, you don't really touch the frame of the door, and it's the entrance to the door. So that's why it made it a little bit better to ground myself. I always do that when I walk into a home, or anywhere rather, as long as it's wood. So I'm standing there going, what do I do? So I turned around and I put my hand on the front door, and it was still warm, but it wasn't that hot that I couldn't put it on like the door frame. So I'm standing there going, I'm here, and I'm just praying to myself, to our Father, not out loud, just within, saying, okay, I have a feeling I'm going to need some protection. I have a feeling I'm going to need some extra. I need your white light around me. I need this angels to protect me. I need help right now. I need help. Send everyone, worker of the lights, I need now. And I've got my hand on the door. He's still going nutsoid in this other room because he's trying to get a reaction out of me. He's facing, all of a sudden he stopped and he's facing this one window that looked out, and it was out toward the street. He turns around and it wasn't him. His face looked completely different. And all of a sudden, we hear these walking on the steps. Now, this was a 5-bedroom home. So you go up the steps, this beautiful stairway. I mean, this home was gorgeous. This beautiful stairway, you go up, you make a left, there's a little landing, and you make another left, and it goes up to the upper bedrooms. Pardon me, and I think there's another level above that as well, and like this little attic place up in there. So we're hearing these steps. His mom looks at me and she said, oh, maybe the realtor came back in. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, I hope so. I hope so. And we're hearing these steps, and then she starts saying, hello. You know, you normally would, right? I mean, that's a normal thing. You normally would. And she starts saying, hello, hello. No answer. In the meantime, this guy is still in this room and starts dancing around again. Here's Zelda. I mean, this was like a 3-ring circus happening all inside of about 15 to 20 minutes. That was so crazy and almost out of control. So his mom is looking at him because his face is changing. And she's like, are you okay? Are you okay? And then she's going, hello. So she's reacting to all these things. And I'm not saying anything because I'm thinking I cannot start engaging with whatever is going on here. I want to leave, and I want to leave without anything attaching itself to me. And it was just this event, layered, a layered, a layered. All of a sudden, we hear these steps again coming out, and his mom goes into the room with him, and she's going up to him, you know, patting him on the shoulder. Are you okay? What's going on with you? You shouldn't be doing that in this house. Blah, 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 blah. The realtor is in here. And I'm thinking, no, no, no. The realtor is not in here. No, he's not. No, he's long gone. He's gone. Just then, I kid you not, what I saw, I will never forget. On the landing, you hear these steps, and on the landing, I saw this thing peek around at me. It was kind of over the railing. It was kind of on the steps. It was like you're coming down off the step, and you kind of peek around the corner because it was all open, and you kind of peek around the corner and you see who's at the bottom. And I'm going to tell you what it looks like. The only thing that I can say that this looks like, if you've ever seen The Wizard of Oz, you know the monkeys, the flying monkeys? That's what it looked like. Only the face was not a monkey face. It was more of a gargoyle-y, crazy face. And it had one hand on the banister like this. One hand on the banister. And instead of just, you know, when you go on a banister, you grab the banister, hello, right? Oh, no, no, no. It was all B-movie horror thing. And I'm hearing all this going on in the front room. And my mind is just going, whoo, whoo. And I'm seeing this. And I mean, I am blinking my eyes thinking, am I really seeing this? The air is so heavy and it was so hot. And we were all perspiring. I mean, seriously, the water at this point was just like dripping off of me. But that hand that came over that banister, here's the banister, that hand that came over the banister was just like it folded down. And it was long fingers with long fingernails. And I thought, oh boy. Something is here that is not leaving. So I just stood there, and it just gave me this very evil, ugly grin, you know, just this little grin of accomplishment because he upset and manipulated the situation. And he unfolded that hand, and he went back up those steps, and you could hear it walking. Now, I think he has some friends because all of a sudden we hear all this walking upstairs. So I decide to go into this front living room because I'm not going to stay there and see this stuff. And I didn't know where the realtor was. He had vamoosed. I went in the front room and I said, okay, if you're done now, I think it's probably best that we go. I don't want to see anything more. He said, oh, no. Oh, I'm not going. And his mom said, yeah, we're going. We're going. Just give me a break. Here, just give me a second. Got to take another drink. Sorry about that. It's pollen season. Okay, so he said, I'm not going. I said, yeah, we are. I'm not staying here. He said, he said, I'm going. And he takes off running upstairs. And you hear him with this crazy, and I really thought he was doing it on purpose just to scare me and scare his mom, show off to his mom and whatever, all this stuff. And he was, come get Zelda. She's here. She's here. Say I brought her to you. She's here. And I'm thinking, holy moly. All of a sudden it stops. And it's just quiet, bone still quiet. And his mom says, what are you doing up there? Are you coming back down? Hello? And you hear this voice mock her. And her voice mocking her, saying, hello? She looked at me and I said, we're going outside. We're going to wait for him outside. I turned around. I went to open up. I'm sorry, I've got a kitty walking around here. I don't want him dumping anything over. How's the cats? And I'm thinking, we're just going to make this exit. I'm not going to get scared. I'm not going to, you know, because this was very unnerving. I wasn't there for an investigation. I just wanted to see. Bad girl. I wasn't really prepared for what I saw. So I turn around and I go up to the door. The knob turns and the door won't open. It's like it was solid, wouldn't open. His mom comes over and says, what's wrong? And I said, door's not opening. I don't know what to do. And she said, oh my goodness, and we don't have our phones. We can't call anybody to come and get us. I said, maybe we can go over to one of the windows or something and wave. I almost said her name, but to the sister who was sitting in the car looking scared to death, and said, so we went there, we tried to get her attention, and no, pardon me, I've got to shove a kitty off my table or he's going to dump everything I've got. Okay. So we go to this front door and both of us are pulling on this knob. By this time, Mom is frantic. She can hear what's going on upstairs and she hears her own voice say, hello. That flipped her out. And I knew what we were dealing with then, because, you know, when things like that mimic, and I know what I saw, and it was a demon. So my idea was sitting there this whole time. I came because I wanted answers, because I kept asking, how did this happen? How could everybody be still laying on their stomachs? How could this happen? How could they not hear each other? How could the neighbors not hear? They did these, pardon me, ballistic tests. Neighbors didn't hear anything. They said all they heard that morning was the dog barking. And you can't buy a silencer for this type of thing. Pardon me. So that was troublesome. Very much to this day, it's not, nobody can explain it. It's not been explained. We finally, I think we are making enough noise and banging around that the realtor comes over and he opens up the door. Just like nothing. Opens up the door. Tra-la. By this time, I am drenched because it is so hot. And my nerves, and his mom was too. And she pipes up and says, we're going outside. And I looked at her and I said, leave him. I was so mad at that point. I just said, leave him. So we go outside and his sister, who was sitting in the car, she says, who was upstairs with, she mentioned his name. And his mom said, nobody. We were just up there by ourselves. And she said, oh no, I saw somebody looking out the window at me. And I'm just holding my breath because, you know, these are people that are really non-believers. And I just really can't pipe up and say, well, I saw a demon on the stairway. And your brother is acting like a ninny through the house, jumping around, and his face changes and everything else. So that was bothersome. That was bothersome. So our day was planned. He finally decides to come out, and oh, he's all grins. And he was just thinking, oh yeah, boy, I'm so accomplished. I ruined this. That was my idea. I just wanted to ruin this. He had that personality. And I thought, okay. And I get home. So he's driving. I'm sitting in the back seat. We say goodbye to the realtor. The realtor he didn't even want to say goodbye. He just was like, boom, out, left. We go to Montauk, which I wanted to see the Montauk Lighthouse. So we're going to Montauk. Montauk, I think, is what they say, is the furthest point east in the United States. I think that's what they said. But anyway, regardless if it is or not, I apologize if it's not, but I think it is. But the lighthouse there is stunningly gorgeous. And I wanted to see it. And it was a nice day, and it was fall, and they had all their fall decorations out. And I wanted to go through the Hamptons, and I wanted to see all these things. So that was our day. He's driving. He pulls out of there like a maniac, running stop signs, laughing hysterically. And I'm thinking, oh God, no. Laughing hysterically and doing all these things, blah, blah, blah. And the mom and the sister are yelling at him. We're on our way to Montauk. And I'm thinking, I got to do something. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I've got to do something. We're all going to get killed. And I'm sitting in the back seat praying to myself and saying, take care of my kids. You know, they're going to be all right. If this is the way I'm going to, your mind starts going into this way, because I knew he wasn't. I thought at first it was a game, and I think it started out that way. But then it got a little darker. We get to the Montauk Lighthouse, and we wanted to stop and get some lobster rolls, the touristy thing. We did all this, and he was not right. He would look at me with just a side look, like a snarly look, and then he would grin, just kind of like that thing that I saw on the steps. So I got to thinking, if we see a Catholic church somewhere, I'm going to have to run in and beg for some holy water, beg for something. So we didn't see that. We actually stopped at a little convenience farmy market type thing. And I was able to get some pure olive oil, not cold pressed, but just pure olive oil. I blessed the olive oil. We're told that we can do that in James chapter 5. And I blessed me first. I had some on. I touched the other ones. They didn't know what was going on, but that's okay. And I tried to touch him, and he knew. He wouldn't let me. He knew. So I'm touching the car. At this point, I'm just touching everything. Touch the car. Make the sign of the cross with the blessed oil. According to James chapter 5, this is what I'm doing. We get back. He seems to straighten up a little bit. We had dinner. We went out to this really nice restaurant. But then we decided we were going to go, I forget where it was. It was on the border of Connecticut and New York somewhere. We took a ferry, and it was really nice. And we just kind of calmed down, because they could not fathom what was going on. And really, quite frankly, neither could I. So the whole time that I'm sitting in the back seat and praying, I'm sitting here thinking, how did this happen? How did this happen? What happened? How did this happen? How did these people not hear? And how did they lay on their stomachs? How did this happen? And I just kept rolling this over my mind. I kept rolling, and I was quiet. And it takes a lot for me to be quiet. You all know that. But I was quiet. I was really trying to sort this out. What I saw, what happened, what was going on, all these things. There's a lot more there than meets the eye. This home was built around, there's different reports. The realtor said was 1924. Some say 2020. Some say 1927. But there is an indication that the foundation of that home, of the Amityville home, was built in 1692. Now there's a room underneath, and the realtor did tell us about this room. There's a room underneath that was reported that George Lutz, they were that family, the next family that moved in. They only stayed there 28 days. They said the paranormal activity was off the chain and they had to leave. So there's this room, and it was found behind some shelves. The realtor said he had to disclose it. He'd never seen it. He wasn't going to look into it, and that the dog would not go into that room, would not go downstairs, and there were other parts of the house the dog wouldn't go into. Amazing. Now, it was the Lutz family that had gone in there, as I have said, and bought this house with the furniture from the previous family. You know, that's a residual energy thing. And you know how I am. If you know me, you know how I am about energy, vibration, looping, all those things. The creation of energy, what keeps them there, I mean, your mind can just flow. Believe me. I really wanted to go down in the basement and take a look at this. I really just wanted to hear if I could have just heard a disembodied voice. But I guess I did. I don't know. I guess I didn't. I did hear something mimicking and mocking the mom, doing the hello thing. And it took her back, because it just sounded exactly like her. And it just rang in that house because, the house was empty. So this whole thing took part at 3:15 in the morning. Now, I don't know about you, but at 3:15 in the morning, if something loud, and believe me, the houses next to this house are pretty close. So they're going to hear something. If they can hear the doggy barking, they can hear something else happening, and they didn't. Ironically enough, my birthday is 3:15. It's said that when this George Lutz and his family lived there, that he would wake up every morning at 3:15 and get up, and he would either go to the boathouse or he would go downstairs in the basement. Now, later on in years, the Lutz children, who were very young when they bought that, and they only bought it for $80,000. That was in 1975, I think, or 76, grew up and said, this is really a hoax. Dad, really, he made more of this than really should have been. I don't know. I saw what I saw. I don't think so. They said, this and that and the other thing. There was a big to-do between the Lutz family and the writer of the book because they didn't sign a contract. They made a movie without them. They sued them. They got a $300,000 stipend out of the movie, out of the rights, out of the book. Even though that sounds like a lot of money, that wasn't a lot of money for the attention that house got. Fast forward, that house finally sold for $605,000. Now, that house went back up for sale again, I think in 2020 or something like that, and with a 400% markup. Pardon me. Imagine that. And sold for just shy of, are you ready? $1.5 million. Somebody's cashing into something. I don't know. There's not been any other reported paranormal instances in that, not that we know of. But I saw what I saw. Okay, now stay with me. We're going to take just a quick break. We'll be right back. Hello and welcome. Okay, thanks for that. Okay, so now I want to tell you what happened after the visitation. I was quiet. Imagine that. The rest of the time, I really was watching him. He started getting up at night, walking around the yard, walking down the street. And he'd walk down the street in his underwear. Now, at this point, I'm pretty sure he wasn't playing. I think there were some other things that are going on. And I knew that all of this disrespect and him acting like this and that home and doing that, here she is, here's the big bad Zelda, here's the one you want to talk to. She talks this, this crazy and loud. So we go home. That kind of blew the rest of the trip. That was the last time that I saw his mother and his family. On the way home, we really didn't say too much of anything. I think he knew what was coming. So we get home, and I really wasn't worried about him. I knew all that was going to fall into place when the timing was right. And you know me out there, my friends. I'm all about timing has to be right. This affected me, what I saw, and I was concerned about him bringing something home with him, not me. And when you're with someone like that and they're a non-believer and they have something attached, whew, that's a tough one to bear. That is a tough one to hang into. So I started having some dreams. And that's usually what happens when you see these types of things. And I thought, oh boy, I went a full week. We were back a week. Things kind of like I had not forgotten about it, but I had relaxed about it and thought, okay, I'm going to just chalk that up to another great experience. And I can't even say it was a paranormal experience. Maybe I can, but I can't even really say too much about it, only because I wasn't there for an investigation. I wanted to just see that house so bad. And I just wanted to figure out what was going on. I started having dreams. And this little fellow that I saw on the staircase and on the banister started popping up into my dreams. Now, what was he doing? He was standing there. And the first thing that he would do is when he would see me and I would recognize him, is he would take that long finger with the long fingernail and point to his wrist like he was pointing to a clock. Now, I can lucid dream, and I was very aware that this was dreaming, and I was safe within my dream, so nothing was happening, and I was there to see what message I was supposed to be getting because I kept asking. Finally, the third night of seeing this and seeing the dream, I see him and others At the same time, on the backs of these people, taking these clawy hands, like I'm on the back of a person, taking the clawing hand and putting over their ears, like they're laying on their stomach and these things are sitting on the backs, and putting their hands over their ears. Could this be how they didn't know? Could that be it? I think so. I don't know. There's no way for me to prove it. I mean, in the toxicology reports, there were no drugs, there were no scratches, there was literally nothing with these poor people and kids. That's what I kept seeing. And finally, I just had to say, enough is enough. I'm not asking anymore. Enough is enough. So it was pretty much put to me that it was manipulated. The noise was manipulated, was isolated. Wouldn't surprise me because I think this house was isolated. So what causes this? Well, I don't know. I'm going to say because we don't know. We don't have any ideas. Now, I want to go back to the original family. This person, Ronald Defoe Jr., went to prison. And he was 23 when that happened. I think he went to prison when he was 24, 25, something like that. He passed away in 2021, I'm pretty sure, of 69 years old. Now, he had a court-appointed attorney. And the attorney said they all got together and they fabricated this story to try to have this defense for him. And it didn't work. And it got out of hand. And that's what had happened. Now, I don't believe that either. I think that whatever it was overtook this Ronald Defoe Jr. Now, here's the real rub. The New York Post wrote that article about him passing away in prison March 15th, 3:15. Now, I want to do a little numerology here. The original house number was 108. 1 plus 8 equals 9. Hello, everyone. 1 plus 8 equals 9. This man and these men were waking up in the morning at 3:15. 3 and 1 is 4 and 5 is 9. Now, what is 9? The number 9 is definitely affiliated with demonic things. I'm just going to say it's divisible by 3. Now, I'm not a demonologist, and I'm not going to pretend that I am. But I am, I think, a theologian. And that is a number that is like, when you're using it in the bad sense, necromancy. Some people say necromancy, necromancy, however that is. What is that? That is raising the dead. We are told in God's word, you can see the witch of Endor in the book of Samuel about how God feels about raising the dead, bringing them back. Bad things are going to happen. That's why I don't use a Ouija board. That's why I don't use those things. That's why I don't do seances because, my darlings, you don't know what you're going to get. If you do that, it opens a portal. And I really believe that's what happened in the original 1974. I don't know. That's what I think. That's my theory. I can definitely be wrong, but there's got to be something there, because I'm going to tell you this. Seeing what I saw and in my dreams about these things sitting on the backs of the people and putting their hands over their ears, well, certainly makes a lot of sense. And that little, and I'm going to tell you something, I haven't been able to watch The Wizard of Oz since. Not that I'm going to sit down and watch it anytime, but you know what I'm saying. That was very scary. I'm just going to tell you, that got to me. That got to me. I was not prepared to walk in and for us to see it that quickly. But I also think it was the events of the day where that little fellow was running into the first room, acting like a ninny. That'll do it. That'll call in whatever. That was an invitation, because he didn't use his noodle. And I did sit down with everyone and said, hey, don't do this. Be respectful. Don't call anything out. Don't do this. Don't do that. We're not doing an investigation. We can't even take our phone. So let's not put ourselves in danger. Let's go in. Let's look. Let's get out. Boom. And when things started happening right away, oh my. That was bad. That was bad. So that was my story, my dears, and thank you for being so patient and listening to it, of my experience with the Amity House, the Amityville house. Now, I'm going to say this. Would I go back again? Yes. Yes, I would, if I were with the right people. This was not with the right people. And I learned a big lesson here. If you like the paranormal, or if you're even dabbing into the paranormal, other than me warning and saying, be careful, it also includes being careful with those that you go with. Make sure you know who you are with. I never in my life thought that that would be happening. Well, I trusted, right? But we weren't going for an investigation. So I was kind of caught in between a rock and a hard place. So what happened to him? Well, it was very scary, Anna. It was scary. But I'm going to tell you the rest of the story real quick. And then we're going to read some cards. I know that's why you're here. And I do see a couple of questions in the comments, so I'll answer those. So what happened to him? The violence got worse. Drinking started. Drinking and driving. Violent. Horrible. I was in a situation where I was worried on a daily basis. I knew what I was putting up with. So I started burning sage. And I started using salt. And salt and sage combo for me, usually, and prayers, because I'm protected by the light, the lamb, the blood of the lamb, our Father. That usually does the trick. The prayers, James chapter 5, the blessed oil, the sage, the salt. Oh, wow. When I would use salt, and I thought it was just a fluke at one point, I did it twice and that was enough. The salt was horrible. He would come home, and the moment he would hit the threshold of the door, be so loud and violent, I would be cleaning up the mess. I have pictures of where he put his fist through the wall and would not hurt your fist. Who does that? Who can put a fist through a wall and not get hurt? So there was something definitely behind that. And I was doing everything that I could to get out of there because, well, I had been going to school and not working that much. And I had been working for a financial company as an advisor and not a psychic at that time because I didn't have the time. I was working on the clinical parapsychology, so I wasn't on a line. And really, thank God I wasn't, because with all the screaming and carrying on that he was doing, I could have never have done that correctly anyway. You know, you can't have noise going on in the background. So as time went on, bad events started happening. I lost my dad. It was just kind of a little fluke thing. I lost my dad. Weird things started happening. I woke up one day with his hands on my head, just like this. And you can bet I got out of there. I jumped up and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Oh, nothing. Nothing." The next day, I woke. I thought I heard a shot, and it was a pain in my head. Now, when we got home, he came home from work one day with something that would have done that in a paper bag and kept it in his dresser. And I knew I had to vamoose and get out of there. What had happened is that I had a mini stroke. And I got up and tried to walk and landed on the floor. Instead of calling an ambulance, instead of doing whatever, he came around the bed, looked at me, and said, You better call an ambulance. I think you had a stroke. I'm going to work." And let me lay. Now, I couldn't talk. I couldn't get up. My son was in a completely different state. I laid there and I could feel in my head, I just couldn't get everything together. Finally, I rallied enough because my phone had been ringing off the hook, and my son would check in with me every day, and finally, no answer, no answer, no answer. I finally got the phone, and I ended up talking like Elmer Fudd for a very long time, if you can imagine that. It took me a little while, and even now, if I get upset or something, I have to take a breath, because sometimes that won't come out and I'll stutter a little bit. And I still have the effects of that. It's called neglect, where I could be walking straight somewhere and just walk right into a wall. And that's because things, sometimes don't fire the way they're supposed to. Has it affected my psychic ability? No, it doesn't, but it's okay. Those things happen. As soon as I answered and I could not answer, my son was working. He quit his job, just walked right off the job, drove right up there, walked in the house, got me, and took me to the hospital. And I was in intensive care for 5 days. The whole time I was in intensive care, this guy is texting me. So we're not going to get into that, but I'm okay, and I healed. I went back home, and my son decided to stay with me until I was healed enough that we could move. The last time I saw him, he was in handcuffs, walking to a squad car, because he had gotten out of control. And that was the last time. For all I know, he's married, and I wish he's well, and he's on his way, and very good. Glad that happened. My company that I had worked for sent me the funds and moved me where I am right now, which is a haunted Airbnb. So I went from one thing to another. The point that I have about this sort of thing is that I cannot say be careful enough, because when you go out to these things, and this was just really a harmless visit, but he didn't behave, and he called in and he opened a portal and he let it attach. And that's what it was. So I'm okay now. I'm good. Everything is great. I'm back in the saddle. And I wanted to share that story with you because I'm going to tell you, those bad things can manipulate bad events. And they're not curses. What they are is they're stepping in, especially when you are a light worker, a Christian, someone who believes in God, someone who, all of that, because they want to tear you down. And they being the demonic stuff. Did I say that right? Demonic. Yeah, that's it. Demonic stuff wants to tear you down. And that happened to me. It was just event after event after event after event. Money stopped, cards working, banks not happening. I mean, it was just boom, boom, lost my dad, did this, had a stroke, boom. But you know what? God saw, and he knew that I needed to get out. And he knew the right time. And he was able to manipulate the right time for me. I was not. He knew it, and he did it. And I was able to leave with my son. All good. And I'll tell you something. My son is a pretty big guy. And his mama was not going to be messed with. Bravo, bravo. Now, thank you, everyone, for listening to this long story. But thank you. There's really some connections in there. I don't want to thank you so much. And Anna, let me see this here. Let me see. Anna says, sounds like it increased my abilities of being stronger. You know something, Anna? I believe you're right. I believe that this just came about the way that it did. And I'm stronger. My abilities are as on as God wants them to be. I'm doing okay. That was just a story that is just, I've put it behind me, but I won't forget it. Now, I'm going to tell you something. I believe in demons. I don't believe that there's one around every corner, but I believe in them. I've seen them. And they're not to be messed with. Seriously, you don't want to play with this stuff. That's what happens. Thank you so much. Now, my little friend Dawn says, I'm glad you're okay. Love and light. Thank you. I am very okay now. I am very, very good. Thank you so much for that. And Dawn has another question. This is very interesting too. Let's see. Dawn says, does the Wizard of Oz have people hang? I probably shouldn't have said that. Hanging around when they would walk on the yellow brick road? The answer to that is yes, that was a true story. And yes, that was caught on, and if you see that, I'm not going to watch it again, but you quickly see that. There was a lot of tragedies that happened in that movie, unfortunately. And yes, that is true for many. Now, I want to say to all of you, thank you so much for being here. I am so happy that you are. And I just want to say, if you ever want to talk to me personally and get a psychic reading, you can find me right there at that website. And for first-time callers, it's $1 per minute. And that's all the little promotion I'm going to give you. Okay? So, but for right now, let's read cards. Who's got a question? Thanks for letting me say that. Thanks for letting me be here. This is Secrets Mystery Manor, where no mystery is a secret, as far as I'm concerned, because we're going to talk about these things. And we may not figure them out, but we're still going to talk about them. And you're quite welcome. You're quite welcome. Becky says, thank you for a great story. Well, thank you. Living that, woo, I wouldn't do it again, but I would like to go to that house again. If I can ever figure that out and assemble the right people to go with me, Yippee-yi-yay. Anna, believe you're right. Yes, thank you. I think so. I think there was a lot going on there, and I think there was a portal opened. But you know, I got to say this. If, in fact, I don't know how you would prove this, but the realtor said that that foundation was built in 1692. Golly Neds. Let's think about that. Isn't that when the Pilgrims came over here? Something like that? I think so. In 1692? Well, no. Maybe. Some history buff, eh? Well, I do know that the Salem witch trials may have been around. Oh. Isn't that something? Don't you like that when I have this epiphany and that just comes out? Sorry. Isn't that wild? I never thought about that. The Salem, because that affected that whole eastern seaboard. And you know, once you're up in that area, Salem is not that far. So 1692, I don't know when those trials were, but there could have been some leftover things. But you know what? I don't believe that those people were that paid that horrible price. But I do feel that that opened up some doors. I do feel that that event, the trials, opened up portals. You know, that whole area is totally rich in history. That whole area, I mean, Paul Revere rode through there, right? That area is just, and it's gorgeous too. It's so nice. I like that. My Hamptons are just my cup of tea. Not very long though. I can only stand it for a little bit. But you can give me a bagel with cream cheese and lox any day and a lobster roll. And little Zelda will be a happy camper. Anna says that she will go with me to the house. Well, you know what, Anna? If I ever could get into it, I don't even know how I would get into it. I think at this point, they would be charging a very hefty fee to get in. I think those people were sorry when we were there, but so much happened. It was just, it was wild. So much happened. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to pull just a general card for everyone here. And then we'll start out. Maybe somebody's got a question, okay? So I'm going to start by pulling out. And for about the next 15 minutes, I'm going to read. I ran over with my story and my apologies. But I hope you enjoyed this. And I'm going to say that next week, I do have a card that fell out. I don't know if you noticed. I was trying to juggle that around. I'll tell you what this is in a minute. Next week, I'd like to have you come back at 9 o'clock Saturday night. I'm going to be telling about the story of a haunted necklace that I have. And it is a story. I'll tell you. And that story is actually on my YouTube channel. It's called The Haunted Necklace. You can go on over there and check it out. I'm at Psychic Zelda Kelly on YouTube, and you can see that story. I hadn't seen that necklace in a very, very, very long time. And I had some events that happened, and that was right after we moved here. And you know, the irony is I'm just this little radio receiver where, you know, we leave from this situation and we come here to this haunted Airbnb. I am actually manifesting a new home, another home, new to me. And I'm going to be moving, and I'll let you know as soon as possible, because I'm probably going to give you all a home tour, because I know that that's what you like. And so I'm going to give you a home tour, and we're going to be talking about how to manifest those things. And it just came out of the tickety boom blue for me. So I'm waiting for this to happen and go from there. Okay, so Becky has a comment. Becky, I used to see a woman in my home very often. Okay. The last time I saw her, she walked into my husband's closet. He passed the next month. Do you think she was death? No. No, I don't. I don't. I don't believe so. And I'm sorry for your loss, Becky. Um, I don't think that she was there foretelling anything. I just kind of get this idea that maybe she was going to help guide him. I think that was it, but I don't think it was a premonition or foretelling. I don't think so. I don't think so. And then Becky says, I had a haunted quilt. Isn't that amazing? When my son lived further and down about 2.5 hours from me, he and his buddies lived in an apartment. They had a haunted chair. That chair would turn. It was a club. You know what I mean by a club chair. It would have those wings on the back, on the sides, a club chair. And you could sit in it just comfortably, just like a side chair you put in front of your fireplace. Well, my son was walking down the hall, and my son is very intuitive and very psychic, by the way, and he doesn't like to be because this stuff bothers him. And something turned around like this in the chair and peeked at him down the hall. Believe me, he called his mama. We got rid of whatever that was, but that was something else. And now we're going to say, Dawn says, I hope that thing does not come with you. No, nothing from here is coming with me. Nothing came with me. I am totally protected. I'm covered by the white light. No, the blood of the lamb. No, nothing's coming with me. Can't get to me. I'm covered. So that is a good thing. Thank you very, very, very much for your concern. I've got so many stories like this, and if you like them, leave it in the comment. You want to hear more stories, you want to hear more scary stuff, you want to hear more mysteries. I mean, I've got them. I've been on so many paranormal investigations. I'm probably going to end up writing a book about it and about my experience when I was 4 years old. There's just so much. Okay, now this card fell out for the chat, and I want to show you what this card was when I was shuffling the cards. I'm using the Rider-Waite Tarot, and here we are. You see, this is the Nine of Wands. This is a fire element. I love fire elements. Fire elements, now you don't have to be a fire element for this to resonate for you, all right? But this fire element in this particular card, I'm going to show you up close here so you can see this fellow. Let me get him on camera so he's not glowing, or maybe glowing. Hello, glaring. Okay, so you see there's different stages, different opportunity. Let's think about this. You know, our opportunities are not the same. Never are the same in life. But with this, it's telling us that there is growth and opportunity ahead of each one of you. And I know that very, very soon, each one of you are going to be choosing something to be going forward into this next chapter, maybe into the summer, maybe into a lot of different things. This is an excellent card. It means that a choice has been made, a choice is being made, and now you're going to be getting to move on. I love that for you. I love it. I love it. Very good. My dear Anna says, you should write a book, Zelda. I actually have 3 of them. And I've written one about card reading and reading the regular playing cards. I've written one, and I'm in the middle of writing one about the tarot deck. And one of these days, we're going to talk about the cartomancy, that's the name of reading regular playing cards. It's a cartomancy. That makes me a cartomancer, reading the regular playing cards. The tarot deck came from the regular playing cards. The cards came from the 13th century. Long time, huh? Long time. China was back in China. So through the years, there's many stories about that. And I've got some great stories to tell about the regular playing card deck and how it correlates with our divination. Like 52 cards in a deck, 52 weeks in a year. 4 suits, 4 seasons. There's a lot of little different caveats there. So anyway, there we go, my dear. Thank you so much for that. Yes, I am writing the book. We'll see what happens. You know, all these things take time. And that's the one thing that I don't like to squander. If I could stay up 24 hours and keep busy, I certainly would. Let me pull out another card for each and every one of you. Another card. But also, in the meantime, while I'm shuffling, if there is a subject that you all would like to talk about, you want me to present to you, please ask me. And if I don't know what it is, and sometimes I don't know, many times I don't know what it is, but I'll find out for you and we'll talk about it, because this is Secrets Mystery Manor, and no mystery is a secret around here. Not in our book, right? We're going to talk about things. Okay, so where we are, here we are. We're going to, oh, I hit my thumb, sorry. All right, so here we are, and we're just going to go. Nikki says, bring your son on the show. I love you, Nikki. I would love to bring him on the show. He's shy. I'm going to tell you a little something about him. I embarrassed him in a paranormal investigation. Yes, I did. I didn't mean to. This is right after. Oh, I got to tell you this story. Here we go. Another story from Zelda. Oh, my Lord. Don't get me started. Well, you did. I did. Here we are. I just got back from New York, and that's when my son was visiting. And I was getting well and doing okay, and he wanted to get me out. So his buddy and his buddy's dad said, you know what? Let's book an investigation at Old South Pittsburgh Hospital in Tennessee. And let's go. I think that was in August or September. Now, this is like an asylum, and it's small. Ghost Adventures have been there. Zach wrote his little name on the wall, you know, the whole thing. This was frightening. And I hadn't been on an investigation in a long time. Now, remember, I was just recovering, so it was just kind of like, ooh, things were open and flowing and going good. So I thought, okay, so here we go. And we were with some very responsible people, and that was a good one. So the idea about this hospital is there is supposed to be a 7-foot doctor that roams the halls. There is very playful poltergeist type entities there. There's all kinds of things. But this was very, I think, active in the 1940s and 50s, that it was an active place. We went through a ghost haunting company. We booked through them. It was very nice. They had equipment that we used. It was a lot of fun. Here's the embarrassment. So we're all standing in this hall, and my darlings, you see how dark it is behind me? It was darker than dark and cold, and it was in August. And I had brought a sweatshirt because I know how these old buildings are. You know, they hold this coldness. And so I dressed pretty warm. I was cold. I had this jacket on, had my little ball cap. I had my pendulum, and I usually take a pendulum with me on investigations. And because it sometimes will lead me in the right direction as far as um, energy is concerned. And that's what, or dowsing rods maybe sometimes. So they knew that I'm a psychic medium and whatever. We didn't say anything. And I told them, I said, listen, I'm making a big deal about it because I like to go and just, I want to mix in with everyone else the way that we need to mix in. So we had these little groups and we went off in these little groups. Now my son's buddy and his dad, they were skeptic. I mean, they didn't believe in a thing. And sometimes that's a lot of fun to go with someone like that, except for when you're going to the Amityville house, right? So this was a lot of fun. So they lined us up in this hall, and they have these spirit boxes out in the middle of the hall. We're both lining up. It reminded me of the school, you know, when they would have the alarm systems go off and you'd have to go out and line the halls. That's exactly what we were doing. So I had these spirit boxes in the middle of the halls. So they had this ball, and it was a pretty big ball, and it was bright yellow, so we could see it. And you know, after you've been in that dark, your eyes acclimate for a little while. They acclimate, okay? So you can see pretty good. And out of respect for other people, you don't want to take like big honking flashlights, and you know, you just want to have a wee little flashlight, even maybe just a little laser, because you know that big flash of light can really affect people. So we had wee little light, you know, flashlights and this sort of thing. I had my pendulum, and I hadn't had it out yet. And we were there, and they're, you know, they're like, do you want to play ball? Well, this voice comes over the spirit box and says, yes. So one of my rules that I don't like to do, it's not really a rule, but it's kind of fun for me, is that I don't say my name when I'm in an investigation. If my son and I are there, I don't call him by his name. I'll say buddy or son, or he'll, you know, mom, or, you know, he'll call me Fred sometimes, whatever the case may be. He and I have a lot of fun, and he's a real gas. So nobody knew my name. I didn't want to tell my real name to anyone, and that was the deal. Out of the spirit box, they're saying, do you want to play ball? And this spirit says yes. And they said, who do you want to roll the ball? Or who do you want to play ball with? Well, guess what? It comes across Zelda. Well, everybody's looking around because they didn't know, see? And I'm like, oh boy. And I said, okay, I'm Zelda. And they're like, you are? And I'm like, yeah, I'm Zelda. So I take the ball, and I just, you know, I'm not going to hurl it down the hall. You know, you just gingerly let it roll down the hallway. And it stops. It was just rolling, 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 rolling. And then boom, stops, stop. And not only does it stop, it rolls back. And I'm like, oh boy, we've got a live one here. So I wanted to take a break. You know, is that, you know, drink a lot of water while I'm staying hydrating. And so I told my son, I said, hey buddy, I'm going to take a break. Stand out here by the door. Because there were people there we didn't know. I said, stand here by the door. Just kind of let me know what's happening, going on. And while I'm in there, I'm hearing all this going on. Well, this spirit box was just going crazy, saying all these things. And the end of the hallway, now this place was huge. The end of the hallway was just pitch dark. You could not see your hand in front of your face like this. Seriously. And I didn't want to turn on any lights or anything. So, oh gosh, one of my cats jumped behind me and I jumped. Did you see that? wiener, Zelda. Okay, so this, I get out there, I finish what I'm doing, I go back out into the hallway, and they're saying, who do you want to come down to the end of the hall? This voice says, send Ian. Now that's my son. And being the mama that I am, I'm like, no, I'll go. My son's not going down there with you, pal. I'm going. And that embarrassed my son because, here he is. He's a man. He's not a little boy. But, I'm just really, and if any of you were out there with me, I would do the same thing with you. I would say, send me, I'll go. Don't go. I'll go for you. That's just the way I am. Unless you're really so prepared that you want to go. But he did. And I'm going to say this. He seriously, amazingly, was going into these areas by himself. Pitch black. And, was I a little concerned? Well, yeah, of course. But he's been around me enough to know how to protect, prayers, what to say, all these other things. And I'm going to tell you what, I was just kind of moseying around doing my own thing at this time. We all just kind of broke up. And I said, I'm just going to go around and do my own thing. And so I'm by myself, walking around this thing, walking around. And I walk into this room and I sweep my wee little flashlight. It was just enough flash to see some man sitting in a chair in this room, a folding chair. And I left out a scream. It startled me so much. I couldn't help it. Now, usually I don't do that sort of thing, but that was startling. Now, it wasn't one of those B-movie horror screams. I wish I could scream like that, but it was like oh my goodness, because it startled me. And it was my son sitting there in the dark, gathering evidence, and he did get evidence. And he got some really, really good recordings. And in the recordings, he was talking about this 7-foot doctor and says, would you like me to, you want to talk to me? Do you want to talk to me? And you know what he got on those? And I still have them. Growling, snarling. And he, when he went to go out of that room, turned around because his buddy then met up with him, his buddy and his dad. And we just kind of all did our own little gig. And well, we shouldn't have, but we did. And lo and behold, he comes out of this room and sees the 7-foot tall doctor. And it was this dark mass. And it was 7 foot tall. And he said you could make out one arm and the shoulder. And I said, what did you do? And he said, I turned and went the other way. Yeah, that's me too. When we left there, his buddy and his dad, the buddy's dad, were true believers after that. In fact, they still talk about it. And when I get moved, we're most likely going to go on another paranormal investigation. Now, I'm also going to tell you where I am right now. I don't know the area very well, and I'm not going to really go out and do any investigating right now. However, when I finally get moved, I will be going and I will be starting again, and I will be showing you the evidence, and I will be letting you hear, and I will be taking you with me, and you will see how Zelda investigates. And I'm a little boring, but I get a lot of response, and I get a lot of things. So anyway, my darlings, we've come to the end of this, and our time has gone so fast. And I want to thank you. Good, Dawn. Thank you, darlings. And remember, leave me something in the comments if you would like any particular type of subject, you like anything like that. I have a lot of content that I can bring to you, and I'm going to be here every Saturday night at 9 o'clock. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here with me. You know I love you. You're going to see me on Reels. You're going to see me around. And I'm so honored to be here with you. You have a beautiful rest of the weekend, a great week. Until I see you next time, never let a mystery ever be a secret. And I'll see you again very soon. Remember, next week is the love you guys. Next week is the haunted necklace. You don't want to miss that. Bye for now.
Until next time, thanks so much for listening. I just love this, don't you?